Well, hello class. Today's the last day of our first week of class, and boy, we did a lot of work this week. But remember, we're putting a whole semester into 7 weeks. So it's somewhat intense, but there's a lot of information here. But most of it is learning through videos and discussion questions. So take advantage of all the stuff that I'm putting up for you. I'm even putting some of the text right on Blackboard so you can reflect exactly what I'm looking for. For example, when we're comparing Myers-Briggs to the Big Five, all of these things are significant. They're truly, truly significant in assessing what type of a leader you are or you aspire to be. So I'm not going to do any heavy hitting in this last day. And every last day of the week, I'm going to make it more of a reflection period for you, mostly in the form of a video like this. So you can kind of relax a little bit and catch up on your DQs. Although I put due dates on your DQs, as long really as they are done by midnight of this day 7, you'll be okay. But try to get them done on the due dates. I don't really ask for a lot, okay? A couple of substantive paragraphs piggybacking off of each other. It's an asynchronous learning environment, and this type of an environment is really taking the place of a classroom. And you'd be surprised when you're not having the competitiveness of looking at one another in a classroom and saying, geez, I'm really dumb if I answer the question wrong. And no matter what I do, I can't get away from that culture in a classroom. But the point is, being in the privacy of wherever you are with your laptop or desktop or tablet, whatever you're using to do these assignments, you're not focusing on the frustration of the class competitiveness, but focusing on questions that are being asked. So take time to reflect and really get a lot out of it, okay? Um, when we look at chapter 1 and we look at the difference between leadership and management, certainly there are a lot of things there that, we talk about. A manager is someone that can manage people as much as things, but managers work off a template, okay? They're a compliance type of operator. Leaders are more visionary. Not saying that managers aren't leaders or visionary, but a leader's job is to get that vision and bring it forward so that everyone can get on the same page. But it takes a lot of accountability to be a good leader. And essentially, that's why we went so deep into Myers-Briggs. Look at all those videos that I put up there. I mean, there's a lot of meaning to, especially breaking down the personality traits, okay? The big 5. Personality is such a big part of leadership. Also, Myers-Briggs will tell you whether or not you fit into a certain category of leadership. There are a lot of great leaders out there like Gandhi, Princess Diana, um, Mother Teresa. These were individuals who were very, very quiet. And you might even think passive, but their leadership was so effective. Why? Because these leaders knew how to reach people. You could break down their traits, you could analyze it, you could say there's a lot of um, qualitative traits that they had. And now we try to compare them quantitatively by putting them into categories like sensing and feeling and, Myers-Briggs, um, you know, um, low energy, high energy. um, the neurotic person versus the open person. And there's so many different types of leaders. But remember one thing, when you study leadership, it really doesn't have to do with good or bad. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't do ethical things. Absolutely be ethical in what you do. But what I'm suggesting is that beyond, you know, ethics, which is a given, leaders do what works. I mean, the template could say, and I'm sure you've heard this before, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Um, it's always worked before, so why should I change? Things like that. If you got a better way, let me know now. That's not where I'm going with this, because those are just cop outs. A leader is someone who's accountable. A leader isn't someone that looks at a template and says, well, these are the rules, and the rules are the rules. Now, I'm not saying you should be out of compliance, because compliance and structure are absolutely necessary. Hey, I'm a management professor, okay? I believe in structure. But what I don't believe in is using the structure as an excuse when the environment is changing and we don't make changes because we're afraid to come out of our comfort zones. Now, I'm not suggesting that managers are fearful of change and leaders are fearless. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that managers need to realize that they have to adapt to change if they want to be effective leaders. There were a lot of rules in companies that were written long, long ago. And when the environment changed, they didn't change with it. And I use this example a lot in my classes, and I talk about a great, great company, especially in the field of photography and imaging, and that was Kodak. And they were the icon of pictures. I mean, they did it all. In fact, they actually invented digital technology. However, they were so ingrained internally on their film industry that they didn't see the changes, or at least acknowledge them, that were going on outside of their world. And that was, as we know, the smartphone, which took on this digital technology and adapted itself not just to do great pictures, but also to do all types of great telecommunications. And I don't have to get into that, but you know what I'm talking about. So, think of leadership, as I put in the banner on this particular course, it as something that moves toward a horizon but never gets there. Sometimes you can view management as an ends to a means, because, when things end, then you rewrite the script. But leadership doesn't end. It's almost like a circle. It really doesn't begin and it doesn't end at any particular point. But if you look at a horizon, okay, just like that picture that I put up there for you on the banner, well, a leader looks at a horizon, but it's always flat. It's a linear dimension. But we all know that the world is round. So the idea is every time you go toward the horizon, okay, you never reach it. It keeps moving away from you. What's the point? Well, in the book I co-wrote with my author, with my co-author, Ken Strong, the first book on leadership was called Leadership is a Choice, and we make choices to lead. Well, Ken did a very good drawing and came up with a very good theory about what we refer to as the horizon paradox. And the horizon paradox talks about trying to reach the horizon but never reaching it because we always see things in a linear way, obviously, because our eyes can only see so far out and we can't see around the globe even if we got perfect vision. But we keep trying to move toward that. See, a leader never thinks they're perfect. A leader always critiques things. They never say, okay, we're done. We keep moving. We keep improving. We keep innovating. And most of all, we have passion. So whatever you fit into, when you talk about Myers-Briggs, when you talk about the Big Five, when you look at your personality, they're measuring traits and characteristics, but they don't really, I mean, if you think about it, they don't really identify you as an individual that encompasses all of these traits and all of these components. Because why? They're theories of what you are, not what you can do. So you have to look at that internal design of yourself. And you have to think about how far you can go and how much you can accomplish. Because leadership starts inside and it moves forward. And others have to catch that passion. People like Steve Jobs, we're going to be talking about great leaders. And throughout this course, as we evolve through the weeks, I'm going to show you some really great interviews with some great leaders, including Chief William Gross, the superintendent and chief of the Boston Police Department, who was a 12-year-old kid, came from Hillsborough, Maryland, trying to find his mom here. He lost his dad when he was very young. And he adopted the Boston community as one of his parents. He had such a passion for who he was, but more importantly, the legacy that he could build from a naive Boston cop or cadet to 33 years of building character to becoming the #1 cop that's in uniform. He's in charge of over 25,000 police officers. But he still looks at himself with dire humility. And that's important because leaders tend to serve others. Their traits have to point in that direction. And this first week of covering chapters 1 and 2 was such an important week because there was a lot in there that identified with you as a leader, as an individual who can go forward, because you've got to start, and I said this before, from within. And that's when they catch passion. Passion to the point of letting others see that they can take that trip with you toward the horizon, never reach it, and keep going. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. That's all I'm going to put up in this video cam for this last week. I want you to go back and reflect on everything that we've talked about this week. Go back and look at a lot of the videos, study them over, perfect your DQs, and then tomorrow, on Monday, on the 28th of May, we will be starting week 2 and covering chapters 3 and 4. Get a good night's rest, and thank you for a wonderful week of work. Professor DeChico.